just face those emotions, whatever it is. Question why you're really feeling it. Don't just try to run away from it, but question why it is. And I feel most answer will be kind of solved if you just have that little introspective moment, think back for a second. But segueing on to what we're going to be talking about today. And welcome back to A.R. Sales, aka the A.R.T podcast. I am A.R. Bing. And today is another glorious Wednesday, glorious morning. Just a little midweek motivation for everybody, because I know I definitely need it. I've been getting just, punched in the mouth, in the grill, everything you can imagine, kicked in the ribs by this goddamn formatting of the book. It is unreal. Everything to do with the margins, everything to do with the gutter. I mean, all these different things that you won't even think of when you get into the writing a book. Your idea is that you write a book and that's it. Maybe you have a few illustrations and you think that's the end of it. Oh my God, no, it is not. It really is. It's actually ironic how well the iceberg analogy kind of goes with it, because it's the whole iceberg analogy of writing itself also perfectly displays what it is like to write a book, where you think that there's just this little thing above the water and you're like, hey, that's not even that bad. Really, all the work is in the bottom, though. It is unreal, but it's such a beautiful process. And it's something that I'm kind of telling myself, that you really have to question what you're willing to do, because the whole thing of anybody can do whatever they want, and all you have to do is believe in yourself. As cliche as that sounds, I really think there's nothing truer to the human experience. The thing is that it's not as Disney fairy tale as that statement makes it seem. It's more what you're willing to do in order to get to that thing. Bill Burr actually had a great little analogy that I loved him saying, that he said that most people have 3 days in them, meaning most people will go, oh, I want to go to the gym, and then they'll go to the gym for 3 days, but then on that 4th day they don't continue. And that's what a lot of different things. I'm sure we all have friends that go like, oh, I have an idea for this app, or I'm going to do this and that, and then they'll do it, and then they'll put it up for maybe a week, maybe they even have some real gumption and they go up for a month, but then they just fall short. They don't continue. And the thing is that I think a lot of that kind of goes with like measuring success, right? It's like a whole comparison thing where you kind of go like, oh, well, I've been doing this for 4 months, and this person over here has been doing it for 1 month, and they have more popularity than me, or they're making more money than me, and they kind of deem that as a failure on their end and go like, oh, well, time to shift. But I really believe, and maybe this is just, it's actually great this is being recorded, because I guess we'll find out in the future. I really believe it's more of just a dedication on your side. What are you willing to do to get to that end? Right? The reason, is the reason that you stopped at that 3-day mark, on that week mark, on that month mark, was it because of, fear on your end? Right? You're doing the whole comparison thing and realizing, oh, maybe I don't measure up. Whatever that is, you have to handle it. Segueing on to what we're going to be talking about today. Here we have a little bit of what I want to talk to you about today. So what we're going to be going into is how to make these chapter designs right here. So one thing that you'll see increasingly more so, especially with the increase of what we're seeing in the market for new books being released and whatnot, what we see here is that there is an increase in textures, different ways to format the book, a whole bunch of different little things that you can to make the chapter really pop and the title really pop for when you go on to the next page. Now, the backgrounds here are more just to accentuate the text itself. Obviously, I can't say obviously. If you do want to put kind of a border within the chapter, that's all up onto you. I personally haven't seen that too much. But again, this is more just to accentuate the text itself. So what we're going to show you today is a quick little tutorial on how to take any texture that you want, basically, and to make a unique overlay and make it into text. And this is not only used for chapter interior design, but also for titling. You know, save some money on a graphic designer, just go and get like an art made, right? And then you can make your own little title here. Now, for just this video's sake, I use Impact just because it's a nice fat and thick font that can kind of accentuate these graphics, the overlays a little bit better. But you can do whatever you want. You know, you go on the website, thefont.com or fontspace.com or anything you find your fonts from, third-party websites, or even Google itself. Google itself has their own little font thing that's actually a little more official if you want to do it that way. And you download whatever you want, and it's the same process. But again, we're just going to go ahead and start a new little file here so we can go off and show you what we're talking about. So we're going to call this we are going to cut these. We are going to cut these. We're going to go ahead right here and call this. What the hell am I doing? How to text overlay. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna get our first thing first. Chapter 12. Now, if you are new to these tutorials and you haven't seen the one from last week, all I did here was open up Inkspace. Again, I like using Inkspace because it is free, very intuitive, pretty easy to use. So all I did was just click this little text here, or you can also just press T, put it on the platform, on the page itself. And even that isn't really necessary for what we're going to be doing, because even usually this page is only for if you're going to be exporting the thing out. But for the most part, you can just do that by selection, but that's for later. I just did Control A in order to highlight everything. And the reason we're going to do that is because we're going to make the font a little big. We're going to make it 115. And then we're going to change the font to Impact. Okay. Now, what we're going to do, and this is where it gets a little cray-cray, is we're going to actually have a direct copy of it as well, just for later. We're going to save that to the side. And I'm going to delete this little one over here because it wasn't the one that I explained. You know how it be. You know how it be, guys. So we have the chapter. We have both of the text as we want it. Well, for this video's sake. Obviously, if you're making some own stuff, you're probably going to be doing it in your own way. And this is definitely just an example. This is, you know, you take this and you run with it. You do, you know, sky's the limit. It's all up on your own imagination here. So for this example, the one that I showed you before was, you know, a little more sci-fi stuff. I had like a palm tree example. For this one, I'm going to be going a little more dark, a little, so I'm going to go with a blood splatter overlay. This would be more for kind of horror, maybe a murder mystery type of thing. So we're going to just name this example blood splatter example. And again, just to explain a little bit what I did, I just Googled blood splatter texture, used the sniping tool, which is, you know, just you go onto the thing. Most if you're running a Windows, it already has it. If you have Mac or something like that, I'm sure you have some type of option to do this. You take that, you save it as the file, whatever you want to name it. Then we go back to Inkscape. And blood splatter. Boom shakalaka. So we have our blood splatter. Now, what we're going to do We're going to trace this as a bitmap. We did this last week. It's honestly one of my favorite things to do within this software. We're going to go for a 50% brightness here, which is basically kind of perfect. Actually, we're going to go ahead and restart that. So I just did a Control Z, and we're going to redo that one more time. Raise it up a little bit, bring it to 65. So we can get a little more of the blood splatter. Perfect. Then we're going to delete the original. Have the chapter. Now, it is important here. This is really the only important thing that you really have to worry about. Is you click, before putting everything together, you simply click on chapter. You bring it to object. And, path. And you click on the very first option, or you hit Shift Control C to object to path. Now this makes it a vector, and it makes it so the individual text can actually be moved around. The reason for this is important is will come up in a second. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna move that over. Right, you're gonna decide how you want it. Now the angle in which you put it is gonna determine how it goes, obviously. So I think that's probably a decent good angle. And again, if you want, you can also literally just change the angle. I think that probably works in this case. So we're gonna get that in there. We're gonna highlight both of them. Oh, and actually I missed a very important step. Make sure to click your overlay, the graphic that you're gonna use, and you hit Shift and the page up on the numpad until the background is a layer above the text. And you'll know that it is because when you try to click on the text, you won't be able to because the background is over it. So what we do now is we highlight both of them, and you will see that they should both be highlighted, the background and the text itself. You go to Object, Clip, and Set. And now we have this blood splatter effect. Now, obviously, it doesn't look that great. So what we're going to do now is we put this little background. And again, we just use Shift page down in order to bring this up. Now, what we can do is we can just make this red. And this is where these come together. So we're going to make this 25. And we're going to make the Y 150. The reason I'm doing this because we're going to mimic that exact positioning right here. And then we're going to take the original chapter as it's selected and just put it right under. Boom. And that is how you do it, folks. Quick and simple, easy and cheap. No problema. Muy easy. Mucho, mucho, mucho easy. Now, again, the cool part here, the main takeaway here is that this is just a quick example. And more so, this isn't even really the PC that I do most of my designing on, actually. I actually do most of my designing on my laptop. So that's why I actually don't have that many crazy fonts on this desktop other than just the ones that I would normally just type with. But again, heavily recommended, star, asterisk, underline, circle, arrows pointing to it. This is just an example of how to use technique. Take this and run with it. I cannot tell you just from example of using it on my desktop with actual like cooler fonts, because obviously impact while being thick and being a good example of what the technique, how the technique can be used, obviously isn't that pizzazzy, right? But all you have to do is just find your own little cool font, one that you're happy with, use the same design, same technique instructed here, and you will have an awesome either unique text for a chapter interior design or for the title of the book itself, or even the back matter, the front matter, all those little things that if you're on the same path as me and you're just wondering to yourself, like, I wonder how I get to that point. This is how you get to that point. So with that in mind, and especially with that little, I don't even know what little ramble that was in the beginning, half apologize for that, half not, because what do you want from me? I'm not even sleeping, folks. This is the ramblings of a madman. But again, this is going to be the end of the episode, this episode anyway, or the end of the little tutorials that we're doing. Next week, we're going to continue on with the process, keep showing little things. I'm going to be going into front and back matter next week. I think that's what I'm going to be focusing on. What that means is, you know, the stuff before and after the actual story itself, the acknowledgments, the, you know, do you put a book guide? How do you format the map? What do you put? Do you put an author acknowledgement? You know, and we're in the age of Amazon. We're in the age of authors having social media presences. This is the time where you kind of get in you know, inventive. Instead of putting all the things that a regular traditional publisher would put at the end in order to accentuate and sell the publishing house, we're indie. We can do whatever we want. We can put stuff to accentuate ourselves. You know, we can put little raffles that have little interactive with a thing, a little Easter egg maybe, that when a person gets to the end, go like, oh hey, send me this code at this thing and get a little gift. I don't know. We'll get into that next week. This has been A.R.'s Tales, aka the A.R.T podcast. I am Mayamita Bal. Check with us on Friday for the group cast and Monday for another interview with an author. Peace out.